The night was pitch black except for the faint glow of the moon fighting through heavy clouds, and the waves were slamming into the shore like they were angry at the world. But it wasn't the storm that made Alex's heart hammer in his chest. It was the sound behind him. Wet, heavy footsteps in the sand that didn't belong to any human, followed by a low growl that mixed with the crash of the surf. Something massive was coming for him, and all he could think was that this nightmare started because of one stupid, greedy choice. If you're already leaning in, heart racing a little, go ahead and smash that like button right now and subscribe to Midnight Horror Vault so you never miss another story that sticks with you long after the video ends. Hey everyone, welcome back, or welcome in if this is your first time here at Midnight Horror Vault, where we unlock the darkest tales that make you question every shadow and every sound at night. Today we're diving deep into Don't Steal, a beach monster horror short film that's going to make you think twice before you pocket anything you find on the sand. Picture this whole thing unfolding like a movie in your mind, because that's exactly how it feels. Slow, creeping dread that builds until you can't look away. Alex was 26, the kind of guy who worked odd jobs back home in Arizona, but never quite got ahead. He'd scraped together enough for a cheap week-long trip to a quiet little beach town called Seaview on the California coast with his girlfriend, Lisa, his best friend Mike, and another couple, Sarah and Tom. They rented a rundown beach house right on the edge of the dunes, the kind with creaky floors and salt-stained windows that let in the constant roar of the ocean. Days were perfect. At first, bonfires at night, cheap beer, laughter under the stars. But Alex had money problems weighing on him heavy. Rent was due when he got back. His truck needed repairs, and he was tired of feeling like he was always one bad week away from losing everything. On the third night, a big storm rolled in fast. The kind that turns the sky black and whips the waves into a frenzy. Rain hammered the roof of the beach house, while the group sat inside playing cards and telling old ghost stories they half believed. The locals at the little grocery store earlier that day had warned them about the beach after storms, said, "Weird things washed up sometimes, old shipwreck junk mostly, but some folks swore you shouldn't touch what the sea gave back." Alex laughed it off at the time, but the idea stuck with him. When the rain finally eased around 1 in the morning and everyone else crashed out, he couldn't sleep. He slipped on a hoodie, grabbed a flashlight and a small backpack, and told himself he was just going for a walk to clear his head. The key. Sand was cold and wet under his sneakers as he made his way down to the waterline. The beam of his flashlight danced across seaweed clumps and broken shells. For 20 minutes, he found nothing worth looking at twice, just plastic bottles and driftwood. Then, about 100 yards from the house, something caught the light. Half buried in the wet sand near the tide line was a small wooden chest, old and crusted with barnacles, the kind that looked like it had been underwater for decades. His pulse quickened. He knelt down, dug around it with his hands, and pried. The lid opened with a piece of driftwood. Inside, nestled in soggy velvet, sat a golden amulet the size of his palm. It was beautiful in a strange way. Intricate carvings of twisting sea serpents and waves, with a deep blue stone in the center that seemed to glow faintly even in the weak flashlight beam. It felt heavy, expensive, like something from a museum or an old pirate wreck. Alex's mind raced. This could be worth real money, enough to fix his truck, pay rent, maybe even have a little left over. He glanced around, no one in sight, just the empty beach and the dark ocean. He slipped the amulet into his pocket, closed the chest, kicked sand back over it, and walked back to the house like nothing happened. He didn't tell the others. Not yet. The next morning, the sun came out bright and hot, and the group decided to have a bonfire party on the beach that evening. Alex waited until they were all laughing around the flames with music playing from a portable speaker before he pulled the amulet out and showed it off. "Found this last night after the storm," he said casually, holding it up so the firelight danced on the gold. Looks old, right? Probably worth a fortune. Lisa leaned in close, eyes wide. Babe, that's gorgeous. Where exactly? Mike whistled low. Dude, you should turn it into the ranger station or something. Could be historical. But Alex just grinned and tucked it back into his pocket. Finders keepers, man. I need the cash more than some dusty museum. Sarah and Tom laughed it off too, and the night went on with more drinks and stories. But something felt off. The waves seemed louder than usual, and a thick fog started, rolling in from the ocean way earlier than normal. By 10 o'clock, the air had turned chilly and damp, and the bonfire smoke hung low like it didn't want to rise. They decided to call it a night and head back to the house. That's when the first weird thing happened. As they walked up the path through the dunes, Lisa stopped suddenly. Did you guys hear that? She asked. Like, splashing, but not the waves. They all listened. Nothing. Alex shrugged it off, but his hand went instinctively to the amulet in his pocket, and for a second it felt warmer than it should have. That night, Alex couldn't sleep again. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, while Lisa breathed softly beside him. The amulet sat on the nightstand, and every time he looked at it, the blue stone seemed to catch what little moonlight came through the window. Around 3 in the morning, he heard it. A soft, scraping sound outside the bedroom window, like wet claws dragging across the wooden siding of the house. He sat up fast, heart pounding. The sound stopped. He told himself it was just a raccoon or the wind, but when he looked out the window, all he saw was fog so thick it swallowed the beach completely. The next day, the group tried to shake off the weird vibe. They went swimming in the afternoon, played volleyball on the sand, and grilled burgers back at the house. But Alex kept feeling eyes on him, like something was watching from the water. Mike noticed he was quiet and asked if everything was cool. Alex lied and said he was fine. That evening, they built another bonfire, but this time the mood was different. The fog never really lifted, and the ocean sounded restless, waves hitting harder than they had all week. Around midnight, Tom said he needed to take a quick walk down the beach to clear his head after a couple beers. Don't go too far, man, Sarah called after him. 10 minutes passed, then 15. No sign of Tom. Mike grabbed a flashlight and said he'd go check. Alex felt a knot in his stomach but stayed with the girls. Another 5 minutes and they heard it, a scream, short and cut off, coming from down the beach where the dunes got steeper. Then silence except for the waves. They ran toward the sound, calling Tom's name. The flashlight beams bounced wildly. About 200 yards down, they found Sarah first. She'd run ahead, standing frozen at the edge of the water, staring at a patch of dark sand. Blood mixed with the foam of the incoming tide. No body. Just drag marks leading straight into the ocean, deep grooves like something heavy had been pulled under. What the hell happened? Mike yelled, voice cracking. Alex's mind raced. Back to the amulet burning a hole in his pocket. He didn't say anything. They searched for an hour, calling for Tom, but the fog swallowed their voices and the tide kept rising, washing away any clues. Back at the house, they locked every door and window and sat in the living room with every light on, phones out trying to get signal that kept dropping. Lisa was crying quietly. Sarah was in shock, rocking back and forth. Mike kept pacing. This isn't normal, man. That wasn't an animal. The marks. They looked like hands. Big ones. Alex finally pulled the amulet out and stared at it, under the lamp. The carvings seemed to move in the light, the sea serpents twisting like they were alive. I think this is why, he whispered. He told them the whole story, the chest, the storm, how he took it anyway. Lisa looked at him like she didn't even know him. You stole it? After the locals warned us? Mike slammed his fist on the table. We have to get rid of it. Throw it back in the ocean right now. But when they stepped outside the house, the fog was thicker than ever, and they could hear it again, that wet, heavy dragging sound circling the property. Something big was out there, moving between the dunes and the water. They ran back inside and barricaded the door. Hours dragged by while they argued in whispers. Sarah wanted to drive to town for help, but the only road out was flooded from. The storm and the car was parked too close to the beach. Around 4 in the morning, the power flickered and died. In the sudden darkness, they heard glass break in the kitchen. Mike grabbed a kitchen knife and crept toward the sound. A wet slap echoed, then a gurgling scream that cut off fast. When Alex and the girls reached the kitchen, they saw the back door hanging open, Mike's knife on the floor, and a trail of seawater and blood leading out into the fog. That's when they saw it for the first time. Just a glimpse through the broken window. A massive shape, taller than a man, hunched and glistening with slime and barnacles. Its skin looked like wet rock mixed with scales, arms too long with webbed claws that dug into the sand. Its head was elongated with clusters of glowing pale eyes and a mouth full of needle teeth dripping seawater. It moved on all fours toward the dunes, dragging something heavy behind it that used to be Mike. The girls screamed. Alex slammed the door shut, and they ran to the bedroom, barricading themselves in. The next hour was pure terror. They could hear the creature circling the house, claws scraping wood, low growls mixing with the waves. It was like the thing was, playing with them, waiting for them to break. Sarah kept whispering, "Don't steal, don't steal," over and over like a prayer. Lisa clutched Alex's arm so tight her nails drew blood. He knew this was his fault. The amulet was warm in his hand now, almost hot, like it was calling the monster closer. Around 5:30, the sky started to lighten just a little, but the fog stayed thick. They decided they had no choice but to make a run for it down the beach toward town, 5 miles, but it was their only shot. They grabbed flashlights and a blanket for Sarah and burst out the front door. The sand felt alive under their feet as they ran, cold and shifting. Behind them came the heavy, wet footsteps again, faster this time. The creature was coming out of the water fully now, moving with surprising speed on land, its body hunched low but powerful. Sarah tripped first. They heard her scream and the sound of sand being thrown as something massive slammed into her. Alex and Lisa didn't stop. They couldn't. They ran harder, lungs burning, the amulet bouncing in Alex's pocket like a heartbeat. The chase stretched on for what felt like forever. Waves crashed beside them, spraying cold water that stung their faces. Every few seconds, they'd glance back and catch another nightmare glimpse. The monster rising up on its hind legs, towering almost 8 feet, tentacles or vines of seaweed whipping from its back, those glowing eyes locked on them. It didn't run straight. It would dive into the surf and disappear, then burst out ahead of them like it knew the beach better than they ever could. Lisa was slowing down, sobbing. I can't keep going." Alex pulled the amulet out mid-run and screamed at the ocean. "Take it back! I'm sorry!" He hurled it as hard as he could into the waves. For a second, everything went quiet. The footsteps stopped. Then the creature roared, a sound like 1,000 drowning voices, and came faster than ever. It didn't want the amulet thrown away. It wanted the thief who took it. Alex grabbed Lisa's hand, and they pushed toward a cluster of rocks. Up ahead, hoping to climb and buy time. But the monster was already there, bursting from the shallows right in front of them. Up close, it was worse than they imagined. Barnacles and shells fused into its slimy hide, claws long enough to wrap around a torso, and that mouth opening wide enough to swallow a head whole. It snatched Lisa first. Alex watched in horror as her feet left the sand and she was dragged screaming into the surf, the creature moving with her like she weighed nothing. Alex was alone now, backed against the rocks with the tide rising fast around his ankles. The monster turned back toward him, moving slow this time, savoring it. Its glowing eyes seemed almost intelligent, like it knew exactly why this was happening. Alex dropped to his knees in the cold water, hands raised. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have taken it. please." The creature paused, head tilting, seawater pouring from its jaws. For one impossible second, Alex thought it might let him. Live. Then it lunged. He felt the claws close around his leg, the cold slime of its skin, the unbelievable strength as it pulled him toward the deeper water. The last thing he saw before the waves closed over his head was the amulet floating just offshore, glowing brighter than ever, like it had never belonged to him at all. The ocean took him the way it takes everything that doesn't belong on the shore. They never found the bodies. A week later, the ranger service searched the beach house and the stretch of coast and came up with nothing except the empty chest half buried where Alex had first found it. The locals just shook their heads and said the same thing they always said after storms. Some things the sea gives and some things it takes back. And if you're smart, you don't steal what isn't yours. So next time you're walking on a quiet beach after dark and something shiny catches your eye in the sand, remember Alex. Remember the wet footsteps, the glowing eyes rising from the surf, and the simple rule that might just save your life. Don't steal, especially not from the beach. If this story gave you chills and kept you glued to the screen the whole time, drop a comment below and tell me, would you have kept that amulet or thrown it back the second you found it? Have you ever taken something small from the beach that maybe you shouldn't have? Share this video with your friends who love horror so they can get the same rush and help Midnight Horror Vault grow. We'll see you in the next nightmare. Stay safe out there. And whatever you do, don't steal.